This is Political Core, the non-PC edition of The Aaron Cruz Show, where you decide the topics. The only place where you get the news you want from the people you trust. We are your balanced and accurate information resource.
Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Aaron Cruz Show, coming to you from Palm Springs, California. This is Political Core. I am your hostess, Aaron Cruz. Thank you for joining me. Tonight's topic is about Obamacare. What else could we talk about? I mean, it's everywhere, right? If you haven't opened your browser or your email or what have you, and you haven't been on the internet, and you haven't turned on the TV, and you haven't looked at a newspaper, then you probably don't know what's going on. But if you've done any one of those things, you've, I'm sure, heard much about and much to do about nothing, about everything that you didn't need to know about what's going on with Obamacare. And so that's why we're going to talk about it. I want to also mention that there are some other areas of interest that we're going to talk about tonight, and it's in regards to some upcoming initiatives that are heading into Congress and that need to be addressed. We can go into that. One of them is, and it was dealt with a little bit today, was some of the Border Patrol, or should I say Border Fence funding that was being put through $1.6 billion, I think it was, for the border in Texas and part of San Diego. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. So thank you for joining me tonight. You can always join me on Thursday nights as well, 7 p.m. for the Queen of Politics. And then you can also find me on YouTube on Friday nights. I do a live show sometimes. If I'm not able to go live, I post a show. I have a show that won't upload from last week that I've been attempting to upload for near half a week now. So I'm not sure why they're not uploading, and I'm working on that. But I don't know if it's the content or what, but we're working on it. But you can join us every Friday night, 8 p.m. on our YouTube channel, or my YouTube channel, The Aaron Cruz Show. You can find us on social media, The Aaron Cruz Show, or my main, at Wagner Girly, is on Twitter. It's that little at, little doodad, WAGNERGIRLE. And that's my political Twitter. It gets a little unruly over there, so you gotta be a little bit brave. Anyway, you can find us all over social media. You can also go to my website at www.aaroncruz.com and find all of the links you wanted to find and more. Also, some resources are on there for you as well for your political outreach and activism. And you can also send us an email at info@aaroncruz.com. And I will always be glad to reach out to you and help with whatever you need in your political activism and in your community. If I can help, I will. All right, so let's go ahead and get to this. So Obamacare, you saw all over the media, or if you didn't, like I just mentioned, you saw all over the media that Obamacare, people were up in arms. They had squatters, yellers, shouters, a big to-do about it, about not wanting this vote to go through and trying to stop the Senate from actually meeting to carry out their duties as Congress members, be for it or against it. It doesn't matter which side. In my position, it doesn't matter which side you're on, for it or against it. Congress should always be allowed to go in and do their job. You don't have to like what they're doing. You can remove them at the ballot box, okay, baby? But I'm going to tell you, Congress should always be allowed to meet and carry out their duties. It's a fundamental part of our national function. So when we have people who are acting like they did today, many of which probably need to go get jobs or something, find their time in other ways, when we have people acting like they did today, it's It's shutting down the process. The same process they're trying to defend and say that we want the right to be able to have the insurance coverages that we have, Obamacare, poor people don't have insurance, we need to provide that. Whatever they're standing up for and freedom to have whatever they want to have, it almost goes against, it almost goes against everything that they're standing for, what they're doing, obstructing Congress from doing their jobs, right? These people, they sit out there trying to stop somebody else from being free to do what they want. Now, what if these same people, you recall, boop, 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 go back, rewind. If you recall 2009, 2010, Tea Party, which I was part of, many different groups of people from all walks of life met and came together for, various reasons and belief systems that pretty much were speaking up against Obamacare and government taking over healthcare. It didn't matter didn't really matter so much why or what your beliefs were as to what kind of reforms you wanted or didn't want. The whole point was most of the people there were taxed enough already. They didn't want governments stepping in and taking over a large portion of our economy, which would be the healthcare portion of our existing economy. So many of those people came together, millions, in fact. Media refused to cover it objectively, and they met, and it was peaceful. Okay, I don't recall, and there could have been very isolated and small incidents. And I'm going to tell you, if they were there, media would have picked them up in a heartbeat. I don't recall such an outward negative response to the Senate and the House meeting to vote on Obamacare. We were adamant about it not getting passed, and we did everything we could in terms of meeting and protesting and speaking out peacefully against the reform, quote unquote, what they called reforms in healthcare, which ended up being a lot different than reform. But in any case, overall takeover of our health care and insurance programs. But in any case, we didn't see this type of, violence and aggressive, outright, blatant, anti-Congress activities. Yes, it was anti-Congress meeting and voting on things, of course, but it was a lawful means by which the people gathered and expressed their disdain for what was going on. It wasn't this violent, aggressive response that we saw this morning. So that's what we saw. We saw many people gathering together and literally trying to stop the Senate from meeting and voting on what they called voting to repeal Obamacare. Now, if you have a brain, okay, and you can think for yourself, which I know many of my listeners do, and my followers do, my friends do, very smart people. Many of you are educated, self-educated, self-made people, good critical thinkers. I know that. Then you would know that, or maybe you don't know because you've been reading the fake news and you're not privy to actually what's going on. Today was not voting to repeal Obamacare. Today, the Senate met. There were two options that could have been voted on, as Rand Paul very nicely emailed it out in the morning, explaining that he wasn't sure which portion or which bill was going to be put up for vote. There were two options that were going to be put up, and what ended up being put up is the AHCA. It's AHCA, and it's HR 1628, all right? And what was put up was the ability for Congress, the ability for the Senate specifically, to start debate on the current bill, to move things forward in a position where they could debate the bill, so they could move forward and take other actions in that regard. So it's basically what they call it is a motion to proceed, okay, with the House passed American Health Care Act, okay? And so what the news has kind of pushed is that today was the vote to repeal Obamacare. And no. Today was the motion to proceed, to move towards that position. In other words, they're going to now debate the bill, okay? And in that, I think it's important, okay? It's important to mention, and this comes from the Heritage Foundation. It's important to mention, okay, the Senate is now going to debate the bill, but the House, okay, the House Republicans will vote on 22 suspension bills, okay? They're moving forward. These are the other provisions, or not the other provisions. These are the other bills that I was going to talk to you about that I really felt needed to be mentioned. There's still a lot of activity going on in Congress right now. I mean, it's not just about Obamacare. I mean, Obamacare is a huge thing. But we're just right now, we've gotten the okay to do that debate, okay? Get it on the floor, let the Senate hash it out. Let them give you their crybaby stories, and I want to kind of tell you, you're going to see a lot of crybaby stories. And you're going to have to sift through the news to actually get what's going on. But the important thing is that we stay focused, that we have a lot of work to do this year. A lot of work to do before midterms, right? So when we focus on things, we have to see the big picture. The House today, I believe it was today, Republicans were going to go ahead or should I say this week? I think it is. Republicans are going to vote on 24 suspension bills. This is per the Heritage Foundation. A resolution of disapproval on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's recent arbitration rule, and a security minibus that includes that $1.6 billion in funding for the southern border wall. So that's the one we've talked about several times on the show, and I talk about a lot on social media when I pass around information, because we have to get some funding down there. And I know I talked about this about 2 months ago, that particular portion, that $1.6 billion. Originally, it was just really for security. And I think they've gone in and they've done a little bit of massaging. They got a little bit of a masseuse in there. And they are actually going to work on the wall in San Diego and down in Texas. Texas is our weakest link right now in terms of border security, okay? So we have to get more. I mean, it's going to cost a lot more than $1.6 billion. But this is a big deal, a big project. Money needs to be put down there. I think the more people see on the other side of the border and in other nations that we're working on strengthening our border and our border security and our infrastructure down there, the better off we'll be long term. It's a deterrent. And, this is one of the things people don't like to talk about in the media, is that if you don't see any police around anywhere, I mean, that's not necessarily a good thing. Sometimes it's good to have a police car here and there. It's a deterrent. There's a presence that needs to be made down on the southern border. And we have a lot of work to do down there. And $1.6 billion is Trump change. Now, it's chump change compared to what we really need, but I think that it's a great start, and we can do a lot with that. It'll be interesting to see. I haven't found the wording on that, and I've done some digging. It'd be interesting to see what exactly that money is going to go to, and what it actually turns out to be, in terms of seeing visible action down there, and what the outcome is from it, in terms of fixing the infrastructure in San Diego and building infrastructure in Texas. Seeing the numbers drop in immigration already from January it's really quite substantial. So, putting some money down there and building down there, hopefully we see it drop even more. We have seen a rise in violence against our border security agents. I talked about this about a month and a half ago. Though our numbers have dropped for immigration, illegal immigration at our southern border and even at our northern border, the violence against our border agents has risen exponentially. So they're getting the coyotes, the human traffickers, they're getting quite aggressive. They're getting desperate. And you know what, folks, I don't like to see that our people are hurt. But they need the funding down there. They need the manpower down there. There's also there's a lot of money going towards hiring new agents. Okay, so we need the manpower down there, and we need the presence down there. They need to know we mean business. And the more desperate they get, the more, I think, aggressive they will be. And hopefully with more of a presence down there and deterrence down there, that will go, that aggression and violence towards our officers may go down quite a bit. But, it'll be interesting to see over the next year and a half, 2 years, how that plays out. In any case, back to the Obamacare, and what needs to be done. We saw that they got the necessary votes. John McCain came in. He came out of intensive care, and he came in and they passed the vote to proceed. And that basically opens the Senate for 20 hours of debate on the future of Obamacare and repeal. Okay? The senators, this is the interesting thing. The senators then, at that point, okay, they have the unlimited ability to offer amendments. It's very important that we watch them like hawks. Okay, those 20 hours, people are going to be watching and watching and watching. There's going to be a lot of doctrine that comes through. I call it doctrine because that's really what it is. Doctrine that comes through where they offer amendments, and then basically, right now, there's no real agreement on what the Senate Republicans, what that final policy is that's going to emerge. Okay, they're talking about that it might, and this is from the Heritage Foundation. What I'm reading here is it says it's likely going to reflect the Senate's Better Care Reconciliation Act. Okay, BCRA, which I hated that term. And that BCRA, I know I talked about it last week, it's not full repeal, but basically it does take pretty much a couple of really good punches at the Obama insurance care regulations. Okay, so one of the things is it expands the allowable age rating variation for adults from a ratio of 3-to-1 to a ratio of 5-to-1, which enables insurers to set premiums to match the normal variations in average medical expenses by age. In other words, it reverses the Obamacare's age rating compression, which significantly increases premiums for young adults. Okay, so that also contributes to lower than expected enrollments by individuals in Obamacare compliant coverage. Now, it also allows for the states to apply for waivers from the mandates, including the plans that cover specific essential health benefits and provide minimum actual value, actuarial value. Now, repealing that value mandate broadens the ability of insurers to offer leaner plans, including catastrophic coverage plans. So I think that's a big portion of it. Now, what I don't see is that it's going to open up state lines. I don't see that it's going to create competition. I'm hoping, now I haven't read anything about it. Nobody's talking about it. I really want to know, and I should send off an email to Ted Cruz because I really want to know, and because it's not clear if they kept the Cruz amendment where basically, now this is a good one, it keeps a position open for insurance companies to offer plans that don't meet that Obamacare criteria, that basically you could go get a plan that meets your needs and is financially meets what you can afford as a family, and is a little bit less, I'd say, overburdening And I think that would open competition in the market because, not everybody needs birth control coverage. Not everybody needs XYZ coverage. You don't need mammograms if you're a man, do you? I mean, maybe in certain cases you might. But, I don't know. I just think that, for example, if you are a healthy 24-year-old and you don't need all these different kinds of coverages, you could get a more skeleton program that pretty much just covers your physicals. And if you have to go to the doctor for an illness, minor illness, for antibiotics, it's not $400 a month, right? And so therefore, instead of wanting to just pay the tax or the fee or the fine, I call it a tax because that's really what it is, for not holding insurance, you could get a plan that best meets your needs and still be participating in terms of health care. The other thing it doesn't mention, and I haven't heard anybody really talk about this, okay, it does not, I guess, well, they still have a mandate, if you will, in that current AHCA bill. It's a different sort of approach to the mandate. And I mean, the Cruz Amendment, if kept, like what they called it was the freedom option, where it opened up that kind of insurance platform for more reasonable rates and premiums for people who want kind of bare bones coverage. If those are kept, that is going to create competition because these other companies aren't going to know that they get those hot diggity dog premiums. Okay, they're going to know that XYZ kid who can barely afford to have insurance at all, it's maybe cheaper for him to get this bare bones coverage, but he'll still have coverage. And then these other companies, they're going to have to kind of adjust their expectation of the American people. Right now, what we have is a situation where the insurance companies know everybody has to have something. Okay, they're banking on the fact that everybody has to have insurance. And if you don't have it, you're going to pay a fine. So eventually, you're going to cough up the money. And that's no good, right? So anyway, I'm hoping they address some of those things in the Senate, and they really kind of hash that out. They create competition across state lines. Many people want to see a full repeal, nothing done. I don't believe that that's going to be realistic. I've always said, don't jump on the hottest news right now. You need to sit back and watch. You need to sit back and watch a little bit because, it's something that's not going to resolve overnight. Okay? And whatever gets accomplished, no matter what side of this argument you're on for repeal, full repeal, repeal and replace, you have to remember that right now at this point, what we need is action and movement. We don't create more policy and bad policy to override a bad policy, right? We don't want to do that. But at the same time, if we can tweak the position right now, and we can see that the premiums start to ease. We can see that we've provided a platform by which the insurance companies, the costs start to come down, healthcare costs start to come down. People are still able to get the care that they need. Don't believe media on all their hype and their whiny cry stories. I'm going to tell you, Obamacare has created nothing but nightmares and sadness for many people. Okay, so it's helped a lot of people, it's hurt a lot of people, just like the system before it, which was basic infrastructure and regulation from a much different angle. So tweaking it at this point, we can always go back in. This is really a start in the negotiation process. I really feel like Obamacare has metamorphosed over the standing of Obama's presidency, and I really feel like whatever they do in the Senate and then whatever gets voted in, it's a starting point. And we have to watch and we have to be active. We have to communicate with our senators and our congressmen, our House representatives, and let them know what we need as a people. That's our job, okay, is to communicate what's working and what's not. They don't know. They're busy working themselves. So it's up to us to let them know this is not working for me. My family. this is not working for so-and-so's family. This, and then let them know what might work for you. And that's what our function is. So I would like to ask everyone to go ahead and be sure to get active, be paying attention, read the news light. If you read mainstream media, be careful what you believe. Don't believe everything. And think for yourself, right? Do a little research. In the link to this show, I will also put a link to Heritage Foundation and Heritage Action website where you can kind of follow, and this is something I read almost every day, and to follow kind of what's going on. They have people in DC that meet and watch, watchdogs, if you will, who watch Congress, and they come from a conservative perspective. I don't agree with everything, but at the same time, I do think it's a good resource and solid information that you can use as an activist, as a citizen, to make positive change in your political world, in your community. In terms of how laws affect your life. And they don't just talk about Obamacare. One of the things that they're also talking about is SNAP. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. You might have, but it's Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Reform Act. And so basically, this is a program that's like, for children, and to provide, it's like, I want to call it food stamps, kind of. They have a good piece in there on that new Reform Act, and then they also have another piece on Employee Rights Act. And basically, I'll provide you the link to their website on this show at the end in the comments section, and you can go ahead and take a look at what you need to know in regards to that legislation. I mean, some of the stuff that's coming up right now is really important. All of this costs us a lot of money, okay, over a long-term period of time, and it's about, I think it's about Obamacare, kind of the tenets of Obamacare and wanting to help the needy. SNAP, okay, wanting to help the poor and those in need of supplemental income or food. And then the Employee Rights Act covering certain provisions in terms of employment. I think the want is to help people, but at the same time, you're taking money from other people to do so. Okay, these are not, SNAP is not an entitlement. It's a hand up, not a handout, right? It's kind of a medium. You need help right now, you're hurting. But there are limits to what help everybody else can provide, okay? And the same for Employee Rights Acts. I can go into that whole one. I mean, I worked in HR for years, but in business. But you have to read it for yourself to go ahead and get involved, I think, at a deeper level. Right now, I think we want to focus on Obamacare and the focus that we have limited funds from my food table, from yours, to be paying for everybody else's health care, food, and employee benefits. Okay, people need to contribute to their own lives, as you and I have done for many years, yes. And we don't mind helping, but people need to get on their own 2 feet, yes, and support themselves, become empowered. So one of those ways is through education. So in these things, I think that they need to make sure, and they're offering, appropriate, what would you call it? Worker education, trades education, and different things for these people that need to get, more stable and skill-based jobs. And I know that one of the focuses of kind of the SNAP and some of these other things is to, well, not really kind of the SNAP, but in any case, a lot of the things in terms of entitlements are not really entitlements at all. They're non-entitlements that are offered as entitlements, and they shouldn't be. And so we need to have, people working towards certain goals in order to be eligible for these sorts of benefits. Okay, so In any case, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I hope you have a really wonderful week. I'm going to go ahead now and give you the information so you can go ahead and reach out to your congressperson. I give it every week, and I want to make sure that you have the appropriate contact information so you can communicate with your senators and your House of Representatives. All right, so Congress, the phone number to Congress is 202-224-3121, and you can always go to house.gov or senate.gov. You can also look up other resources on my website, which I mentioned earlier. It's aaroncruz.com, or you can send emails and inquiries to info@aaroncruz.com, which I've told you before. I put the references and data provided on the show in the comments. You can make sure to like us on social media at Political Core or at Wagner Girly. As always, I want to make sure that we grow together, that we find common solutions, we find common ground. I will always answer any questions I can. Do not hesitate to reach out, okay? All right? We are in this together, right? United we stand. So thank you again for joining me, Aaron Cruz of the Aaron Cruz Show and Political Core. Make sure to join me this next Thursday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for the Queen of Politics. It's a lot more fun on Thursdays because we don't try to get to the kind of the core of the issues. So we have a little bit more fun with things. Okay? So God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and God bless America.
To hear more and to learn more on how you can make an impact or about Political Core and the Aaron Cruz Show, visit us online at aaroncruz.com. That's ERINCRUZ.com. Thank you for joining us, and see you at the same time and the same place next week.